Shalom, dear friends. Welcome to this third session of Hebrew School. In the initial video, we looked at the kind of background and just general information about the Hebrew language, both the biblical Hebrew of antiquity and also the modern Hebrew. We're going to be studying a little bit of both, the old and the new. In the next video, we began to learn the alphabet, which was limited in that video just to the consonants of the Hebrew language. We were reminded that the Hebrew language, unlike English, reads from right to left, and really the letters, the consonants of the alphabet bear very little resemblance to English. So this is really a foreign language, going to be very different from probably anything that you've studied before. But I think it will be within your grasp, and I think you'll enjoy doing that. One of the things that we mentioned in the second video and also the first video is the theory that in biblical times, the Hebrew language was written with consonants only. And there were a few Hebrew consonants that could be used as kind of placeholders for the vowels and so forth. But that the ancient biblical writings were done without vowel signs. That's the generally held theory. It's believed that the vowel points, what we're going to study today in this video, also called the Nikud, was invented much later, hundreds of years after the biblical era, when Hebrew had become a language not so much used after the conquest of Israel and Jerusalem in the first century. It was generally thought that the Hebrew language was reserved only for religion, and the Jewish people in the dispersion adopted the languages of the countries that they lived in, and there's some truth to that. So no doubt in the centuries following the biblical era, the Hebrew language did come into disuse, and the vowel signs, the vowel letters were created so that people would know how to pronounce the Hebrew, because the pronunciation had been lost. The group that is usually credited with the Nikud, with the system of vowel points and signs, are the Masoretes. And most Bible scholars today, when we study the Old Testament, we use a Masoretic text, and that's a text that includes both consonants and vowel points. I wanted to add, though, that I have a book in my library by a theologian, a British theologian named John Gill. He lived in the 1700s. And he wrote a dissertation called the Dissertation Concerning the Antiquity of the Hebrew Language. And what he meant by that was that he believed that the very first language, the original language that God taught or kind of infused into people was the Hebrew language, and that all other languages in all creation derive from the Hebrew. And he offered some pretty persuasive evidence for that. So it's the Dissertation Concerning the Antiquity of the Hebrew Language, that it was the original language, letters, vowel points, and accents. John Gill, way back in the 1700s, took the very interesting position that when God invented or taught the Hebrew language to the first people, Adam and Eve and their descendants, that he taught it as a written language with not only consonants, but also the vowel points. So he asserts that the vowel points are very old in their origin, well, way before the time of the Masoretes. And that normally when the Bible and other documents were written in the Hebrew language, there was kind of a shorthand used. The vowels were left out because you didn't really need them. Context would dictate how vowel sounds would be made and so forth. So it just saved a lot of effort not to have to make all the dots and crosses and little symbols and signs of the vowels. So that may very well be the case. Like I say, John Gill makes a very persuasive argument in favor of that. So what we'll be doing today for Hebrew school is we will be studying the vowel points, or the nakud, as it's called in Hebrew. The first screen I have here for you is a picture of a portion of really the only reference work I have recommended to you, which is that it's kind of a cheat sheet of the Hebrew language. And it's based on, it's kind of a summary of a very well-known and popular Hebrew grammar textbook. And we're just using that summary, so we'll be able to kind of look at the main points of the lessons that we'll be learning in Hebrew, and not take a lot of time to study in great depth all these the wide variety of lessons on the Hebrew language, but just kind of get a summary, learn some basic things, and do most of our learning by reading texts from the Hebrew Bible and Hebrew translations of the New Testament. So the first screen we have here is entitled Hebrew Vowels, and it breaks vowels down into long vowels and short vowels. In English, we talk about long vowels are A, E, I, O, and U, and those are the vowels that when they're pronounced in a word, they say their own name, and those are considered to be long vowels. We also have short vowels in the English language, and those are vowels that have a softer pronunciation, not the harsh stating of the name of the vowel, but a softer sound. So we have long vowels and short vowels. And I want to emphasize that as we study Hebrew, one of the things that we can learn to do to pronounce Hebrew words better is to pronounce English words as if we were reading Hebrew consonants and vowels. Like one of the main unique qualities of the Hebrew language is that the R sound in Hebrew, the resh, remember that's pronounced in the back of our throat. So when we say the R sound in Hebrew, it's ra, ra, pronouncing that from the back of our nose. It's not a trill, rolling our R's as it is in some languages, but it's a kind of a throaty resh. Also, for example, in this word that's on our paradigm here, the word father, in English, especially if you come from the Midwest like I do, you tend to pronounce the R sound at the end of the word, like father, and that's not how it'd be. This word would be pronounced in Hebrew, father, father. So if we get used to pronouncing English words that way, like if we read an English text of the Bible, but pronounce the English words as if they were Hebrew consonants and vowels, that will help us to get used to saying words with kind of a Hebrew accent. And it will really help us in our pronunciation and get us used to hearing biblical words as they were originally pronounced in Hebrew. So we've got the title, Hebrew Vowels. We've got a section for long vowels and short vowels. And these vowels are categorized according to what classification of vowels they are. Like the first one that we will learn here is an A class vowel. The second one is an E class vowel, and the second one is an O class vowel. A, E, and O are all vowel sounds, and they have categories of long vowels and short vowels within the class, the A, E, or O class. Either A, long or short vowels, E, long or short vowels, O, long or short vowels. One of these you will notice, if we come down here, this symbol right here looks exactly the same as this symbol. So this vowel, it's called a kametz. Down here, it's called a kametz hatuf. The word hatuf in Hebrew means hurried or shortened. But you'll notice up here, it's an A-class vowel, and down here, it's an O-class vowel. So the kametz includes both O-class vowels and A-class vowels. So we're not going to spend a lot of time studying these charts. I just want to point out some things. In the column on the left, we have the class of vowels that the various signs or indications, the vowel points belong to. And then in the second column here, we have the vowel points given, but in every sample that's given here, the vowels are given either underneath or beside or on top of a consonant. And in this case, they just chose to use a bet, a B sound. And it has a dogish in it, so it's pronounced as a B instead of a V sound, a V, if it didn't have the dogish. But this is just kind of a placeholder to show us the location, the relative location of the vowel in connection with the consonant. So hopefully you already know the consonant bet. And normally vowels are going to come under the consonant. So the little T-shaped symbol underneath the bet is the first vowel that we're going to learn, and it's called a kametz, as we've already said. So the third column here involves the Hebrew name of that vowel in both long and short vowels. And then the last column, the fourth column here, is how this vowel would be pronounced in the English language. So the first one that we're going to learn is the kametz. It has an A sound. It's an A-class vowel. And it's the A sound as you would make when you pronounce the word father. But again, it's going to be advantageous to us if we pronounce the word father, not so much with an English accent, but with a Hebrew accent. In Hebrew, the word father would be pronounced father. So, whoops, that is the first part of the chart on vowels. There are actually two segments from our resource. This is the second one. It has the same columns. Here it talks about reduced vowels. Hateph, remember, involves hurried vowels. So you're not going to put as much emphasis or accent on the hateph or the hatuf vowels as you do. Again, the bet is used as the model consonant, just to give us a relative location for where to put the consonants. And I do want to point out one thing here. Short hateph reduced vowels oftentimes involve two symbols put together. This is one of the symbols that was given to us in the paradigm, the chart that we just looked at, this one. But right beside it, it's got two vertical dots. It looks like a colon in English. The two vertical dots are called a shva. And unfortunately, our study guide that we have doesn't have a whole section on the shvas. But basically the rule, whenever we see a shva all by itself with just two vertical dots, or in combination with another vowel, we're either going to pronounce that vowel sound very quickly or not pronounce it at all. And I'll give you some kind of rules for when we'll know what to do. Now, here's another example of a combination vowel. This is one of the main vowels, the 3 dots in a triangle shape is one of the 3 dots that was given in the chart above. And here's the schwa beside it, the 2 vertical dots. So same rule, no matter what the combination is, anytime you see a schwa here, we're either going to pronounce it quickly, hurriedly, or we're not going to pronounce it at all. Another thing that we will learn is that there are certain consonants that can also be used as vowels. And those consonants are the hey, the yod, and the vav. So sometimes, like the 3-letter root word of a word will change if a hey, yod, or vav are used to kind of augment a vowel sound in the word. And then down at the bottom of the chart is a section called Defective Writing. This vowel right here, which actually occurs to the left of and beside the consonant, it's called a holum. It includes a consonant that is used as a vowel or a part of a vowel. And this right here, the more complex, the more complete way of writing this bait and holum vav is the most complete way of writing it. But sometimes, and this is called defectively, there's kind of a shorthand given. So here we have the same consonant, a bait, with a holum, just the dot over it, and the vav is left out. And that's just a shortened way of writing it. So you might see a word with a holum vav written with bait and vav in the writing, or you may see it without the vav and only the dot. The same is true of this vowel letter. It's called shurek. And if the vav with the dot in the middle of it is left out, then you can write that same vowel sound with 3 kind of angular dots. And the same is true with this hirek yod is the major vowel. But sometimes the yod drops out and it's only written with the dot. So those are the charts categorized by, sections of things that we need to know about the vowels. We have the A, E, I, O, and U classes of vowels. We have the name of those vowels and kind of the compound names of the combinations of vowels and schwas. And then we have the pronunciation. Now, I hope you didn't feel like you had to kind of take in and memorize everything I just told you, because what we're going to do is we're going to use each line, each portion of these charts and look at them one at a time and learn the vowel points, or the nikud, one vowel at a time. So from the chart that first chart that we just looked at, here's the title, Hebrew Vowels, and these are changeable long vowels. And here's the first one that we looked at. It's an A class vowel. It goes below the consonant. The name of the vowel is kametz or kametz, and it's pronounced as an A, as in father, father. So it's an ah sound. Down below, we have the kind of large printed form of the bait, which is just the sample. I need to emphasize that the bait is not a part of the vowel. The vowel comes underneath it. And it's kind of a T-shaped little symbol or indication, and it's called a kamatz. And it is pronounced as a kind of a short ah sound, as in father. The next screen that we have is the second line of that same chart, Hebrew vowels, long vowels. This is an E class vowel, It is two dots, not vertically like the schwa, but horizontally. So two dots side by side. It's called the tse-re. Actually, I'm pronouncing it with too much of an AY sound. So it should be tsere. And it's pronounced as an E. This is an E-class vowel. E as in the word they. Now, in English, there's a word gray. It's a color, and it's spelled Gray. And there's a color gray that is spelled Grey. The tsere is like in gray with an EY. Now, when I pronounce the word gray, whether it's spelled with an EY or an AY, I say it the same. But technically, there's a difference. If this was an AY sound, it would be, it would emphasize that kind of the long A sound. It would be pronounced they or gray. If it's pronounced as an E-class vowel, as an EY, it's going to be the. It's going to be more E sounding, A. Now I say this because one of the names that we're going to come across most frequently, especially in our reading of the New Testament in the Hebrew language, is the name of Jesus in Hebrew. And the first consonant letter of his name is Yod, the Y sound. And the vowel that goes under it is this tsere, tsere. It's hard for me to pronounce it that way, but that really is the proper pronunciation of it. So we would have a Yod with a tsere under it. Now, the temptation for me is to pronounce that like it's an AY sound, like yay. So in English, it would be Y-A-Y. But in Hebrew, it's properly pronounced like Y-E-Y. So the name of Jesus in Hebrew is not pronounced Yeshua, it is Yeshua, Yeshua. So it's kind of a Y-E-Y, first consonant and symbol. So you may have to kind of note when I make a mistake and I call this a say-re, it's actually a tsere. The next vowel is an O-class vowel. Here is the model consonant, the bet, and this dot in the upper left-hand corner above the bet and to the left of the bet is called a holon. Now here's an example where the vowel says its own name. O as in roll, roll. That's a long O sound, very similar to English. Here is the kind of printed Bible text form of the bet with the dagesh inside. And again, I'll emphasize, just so you don't make the mistake, the bet is not part of the vowel, it's the consonant. And the vowel would be pronounced after the consonant. It's up here in the upper left portion of the consonant. And this would be pronounced bo, bo in Hebrew. The next portion that we have is the short vowel section of the Hebrew vowels. Here we have an A-class vowel. Here is our bet model consonant. And underneath it, we have a horizontal line, just a short line. It's kind of like a dash in English. And this vowel is called a patach, patach. And it's pronounced with an A sound as in, I would say in English, bat, but if I, like a baseball bat, but if I pronounce the word bat in Hebrew, it's bat, a baseball bat. So it's a kind of in my opinion, it's exactly the same sound as the kamats, sound. So here we have patach. Here is a model vowel. This one does not have the dogish in it, so the consonant is vet with a V sound instead of bet with a B sound. So this would be pronounced va, and the pronunciation is as in father, father. Now remember, this is the pronunciation that was given for the kamats that we looked at earlier. And I just included it here because, like I say, for all I can tell, it's pronounced exactly the same with a kamats or a patach. So if you're going to look at this as a reference, remember that the sound would be as in the Hebrew pronunciation of baseball bat, which would be baseball bot. Okay. The next one we're going to learn is also an E category vowel. Here it is underneath the bet, and it is 3 dots in a triangle shape. And it's called seghal, or segal. It is pronounced as an E in English in the word better. So it's an S sound, better, not better, better. So we have 2 segal pronounced vowels in the word better. Here's what it looks like in print. The model vowel or the model consonant has the dogish in the middle, so it's bet, and this would be pronounced be, be. If there was a kamats underneath it, it would be pronounced ba, and if there was a patach under it, it would be pronounced ba. But if you've got 3 dots, that's the E sound, and it's pronounced be. The next example of a vowel we have is also in the short vowel category. It's an I class vowel, and it's a single dot underneath the consonant. The name of this vowel is hirek, and it's the I sound as in the English word biter. So I am even in pronouncing this, I'm not pronouncing it so much like an I as I am in like a long E. The way you pronounce the word bitter in Hebrew is biter. So the name of the vowel should probably be pronounced hirek. So this is almost a long E sound. Many people, when they're learning Hebrew, just pronounce this bi. But one of the unique characteristics of the Hebrew language is that even the short I sound is pronounced E, biter. So if you pronounce it like a long E sound, it will make your Hebrew sound more Hebrew and not more like an English person trying to learn how to pronounce Hebrew. The next vowel that we're going to learn is also in the short vowel category. It is an O class vowel, and it looks like a comets. Now, I pointed this out when we looked at the 2 charts, that this could be just a comets, or it could be a comets hatuf, a quickened comets sound. In this case, it is pronounced as an O rather than an A sound, and the pronunciation would be O as in bottle. So sometimes you will see a comets, and if it is intended to be a comets hatuf, it's pronounced quickly. Hatuf means quickly, and as an O sound rather than as an A sound. Now, there's one additional rule that goes along with this vowel, the kamatz hatuf, and that is when a kamatz is followed by a shva. What's the shva? 2 vertical dots. So here we have a kamatz underneath a bait, and here we have a shva underneath a resh. You would think that that would be pronounced bar or bara, but it's actually pronounced O as in whole. O as in whole. So in other words, we're saying the sound of the O. So because there's a shva after this, the kamatz is not pronounced as a short ah or a sound. It's pronounced as a long O sound. So this would be pronounced boer, and the shva would be silent. Sometimes the shva is pronounced, but it's pronounced quickly, and sometimes it's not pronounced at all. It's just taking up a space underneath a consonant to show that there's no vowel sound connected with this consonant. Now, one of the rules that we will learn later on is that in Hebrew, there are open syllables and closed syllables. An open syllable would be when there is just a consonant with a vowel under it, and next to it would be a consonant with another vowel under it. So it's closed because it would be saying ba and ra together, ba, ra, which in fact is the way the word create, bara, in Hebrew is pronounced. But when you have at the beginning of a word a kametz with a shva beside it, and it's an unaccented closed syllable. This is a closed syllable because there's not a vowel under this consonant. There's only a shva, a placeholder. Normally, the accent on a Hebrew word goes at the end of a word or next to the end of a word. So it'll be typical if you see a kamatz and a shva at the beginning of a word, even if there are lots of letters that come afterwards. The first word of the Bible is Bereshith, which means in the beginning. So the first 2 letters of Bereshith are Beit and Resh, but then there are lots of letters that come after. So, we would be looking to see if there's a kametz followed by a shva. Now that's kind of complicated, and I don't expect you to remember it from just learning it on this screen, but we will learn it. We'll have plenty of examples of it when we start reading texts and pronouncing words. And I think it'll just become second nature to you. The next vowel that we want to learn is a U class vowel. It is written with 3 angular dots underneath it. It's called a kibbutz. Now there's another U sounding letter that is called shurek, and we will learn that briefly. But the way I remember the difference between a kibbutz and a shurek is that there are 3 dots here, like a kibbutz of dots. What's a kibbutz? A kibbutz is like a farm or a piece of property in Israel where a whole bunch of families live together and work together in a commune. So it's a gathering of people together, like 3 families, 3 dots underneath a consonant. So we've got a little commune of dots living together on a kibbutz. So that's how I remember the term kibbutz, kibbutz. The kibbutz is pronounced as a U as in ruler. So this is one that almost says its own name. It's not ruler, but it's ruler, ruler, ruler in Hebrew. So here we have the model consonant. In this case, I left out the dagesh. It's a vet with a kivutz underneath it, and this would be pronounced v, v, as in ruler. Hebrew pronunciation of ruler, ruler. The next vowels that we are going to learn are all reduced or Hateph vowels. Remember that a Hateph is a hurried vowel. An A class of vowel would be a Hateph patach. Remember, the patach is the horizontal line that looks like a dash underneath. But the thing that hurries it or makes it shorter in pronunciation is the shva beside it. So hataf patuk is pronounced as an A sound, as in the word amuse. Now I have shortened, when I pronounced amuse, I shortened the A sound where it almost sounds like a U sound. So that's the whole idea of shortening it with a shva so that it's not pronounced as amuse, but it's pronounced amuse. In other words, we want to get quickly to the consonant that follows this vowel so we can put the emphasis on the consonant instead of this vowel that comes before it. We'll give you plenty of examples in that. The next one is an E class, Hateph segal. Remember, the segal is the E sounding vowel that's 3 dots, not in a line like the kibbutz, but in a triangle like an E sound and an S sound. And here's the shva beside it so that we rush past the vowel sound. It either makes no sound or just a little bit of a sound. And Hateph segal is pronounced as an E as in metallic, metallic. So it's kind of an with, I guess, with an E kind of tonality rather than an tonality. But basically, we just rush past this vowel, this E sounding vowel, metallic. There is an O class vowel called the Hateph kametz. Here is our kametz. It's the T-shaped vowel point. Here's the shva beside it, which emphasizes that we're just going to rush past the vowel sound. And Hateph kametz is pronounced as an O as in commit, commit, not commit, but commit. So all of these they sound almost the same. It's just kind of an sound, sound. And you just rush past it. So commit. You don't spend much time pronouncing the vowel. So let's look at the vowel letters with a consonant which is included as a part of the vowel. Remember, I said that one of the characteristics of Hebrew words is that a consonant can be inserted in the middle of a word following a consonant in order to kind of augment that vowel. So here we have the model consonant bet. We have a kametz underneath it, but we have a red hey. So the hey is connected, in this case, to the comets. The hey would not be in the root word of this word, but it's inserted into the word so that it's not a comets by itself, but it's a comets hey. So comets hey is pronounced as an A, as in father, father, exactly the same as if the comets was all by itself. So we might say that a defective form of this vowel consonant combination would be a defective form would be to have the hey not inserted, but the comets all by itself. So in some words, you're going to see the comets by itself. Some words you're going to see the hey inserted. Now, where this probably came about is when the Hebrew language was written without consonants, in order to show that there was a comets underneath the bait that is not going to be written if you're writing consonants only. A hey was put in here so that you would know that this is a comets sound underneath and not a hirek or a shurek or something like that. We have an example of this as an E class vowel, and here's our tsere, and here is a yod inserted into the word in connection with the sere. Sere yod, this combination here, is pronounced as an A, as in they. So it's kind of the EY sound. And notice again, this pronunciation is exactly as if the sere were there all by itself. But sometimes you're going to see it in a Hebrew word with a yod inserted beside it. Sometimes that causes the pronunciation to be drawn out a little bit instead of sound, as in Yeshua. It would be, if the yod followed, it would be yeh or Yeshua. Okay. The next one we have is a segol class. That's an E class also, with a yod inserted beside it. This is a segol yod, and it's pronounced as in beter, just like the segol by itself. The next example we have is the hirek yod. Here is the hirek with the yod inserted beside it. Sometimes it'll be written with the yod, sometimes not. It's I as in machine, machine. There's that long hirek sound. So it should be pronounced hirek yod. We have an O class example of that where a vav is inserted. The three letters that can be inserted, the three consonants that can be inserted in words and function as a vowel or as an augment to our vowel are hey, yod. We had 3 examples of yod, and we will have 2 examples of a vav. In this case, we have a vav with a holum on top, the dot, the single dot that goes above the line. If it was a single dot below the consonant, it would be a hirek. Here it is a holum. So this is going to be a long O sound, the holum vav. Again, our study guide uses wow instead of vav because those scholars believe that in biblical times, the vav consonant was pronounced as a W sound rather than a V sound. But I'm convinced that the vav was pronounced in biblical times as a V sound, and it continues to be pronounced as a V sound in modern Hebrew today. So this is a long O, as in roll, roll, or rol in Hebrew. We have a U class example of that, which is a vav inserted, but it's got a dot kind of right in the middle and to the left of the vav. So the dot's not on top, but the dot's here in the middle. And this is a U sound. This is called a shurek, shurek. and it's U as in ruler, ruler. So in English, it has more of a long U sound, but in Hebrew, it's ruler, ruler. Here are some of the examples of defective writing that we've already talked about. This is saying that the normal way of writing a beit with a holem beside it is with the vav inserted. The shorthand way, or the defective way of writing it, is to have the beit with only the dot to the upper left of the consonant. They're both pronounced the same. Sometimes you see it with the vav inserted, sometimes the vav is not inserted. This is called defective, not because there's anything wrong with it, but just because it's a shorthand way of pronouncing it. Here we have the shurek example. The shurek can be written like this, with or without the vav, but if the vav drops out defectively, the dot drops out with it. And in its place is our kibbutz, our little farm of 3 dots, all in a line, working together in a commune. Here we have the beit consonant and another example of a hirek yod, which we saw before. The standard way, the formal way of writing it is with the hirek here and the yod inserted to the left of the consonant. But it can also be written this way without the yod inserted. It's hirek yod over here, and hirek all by itself without the yod if it's written in the defective form. Now, the last thing I want to do is just take a few verses from the Bible. We'll look at Genesis, the beginning of Genesis, the first book of the Old Testament. And of course, everybody's familiar with Genesis. It reads in English, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." We want to look at it in Hebrew and be reminded that Hebrew goes from right to left. Here are all of the consonants. And just for review, let's say what these consonants are. This is a beit because it has the dagesh in the middle rather than a vet. So it's bet, resh, aleph, shin, yod, tav, bet, resh, aleph, lamed, he, yud, mem, aleph, tav, he, shin, mem, yud, mem, final form of mem. This is a mem, and this is a mem if it comes at the end of a word as the final consonant. Vav, aleph, tav, he, aleph, resh, and this is tzadi as it appears at the end of a word. There's not a tzadi in the middle of this verse, or I'd point it out. But basically, instead of having kind of a zigzag bottom, as in the middle of a word, the zigzag just drops down straight at the end of a word. Now we want to take a look at some of the vowels that are in this word. In the first word, Bareshit, underneath the beit, we have ashva. When we have a shva at the beginning of the word, we just bounce right over it. We don't pronounce it, and we go right to the next consonant. This consonant does have a vowel under it. What's the vowel? It's the tsere, tsere. Here we have an aleph with no vowel underneath it. Here we have a shin with a hirek yod, a hirek yod. So because this yod is inserted here, we would call this a hirek yod, If the yod was taken out, this would just be a hirek. But this is one vowel combination, hirek yod, okay? This is a closed syllable because the second consonant has a vowel underneath it. So we've got ba, re. There's no vowel underneath the aleph. In fact, aleph is kind of a vowel placeholder. And then we have the hirek yod underneath the sheen. So this would be sheet, ba, ba. Because it's a shva, we just either don't pronounce it at all or we just kind of quickly pronounce it. Ba, re, sheet. The next word is bara. It's the Hebrew word for create. Actually, he created. We've got underneath the bait a comets. Underneath the resh, we've got a comets. So this is a closed syllable. Ba, ra, bara, and the aleph is not pronounced. It's only pronounced if it has a vowel underneath it, and then you just pronounce the vowel. Actually, you never pronounce the aleph. You just pronounce the vowel underneath it. But since there is none, the three-letter root of this is a beit, resh, aleph, the word for create. Then we have this, what was that called? Segal hatuf. It's got a segal underneath the aleph. So that's the E sound, but it's got a shva right beside it. So we're just gonna barely pronounce the, just gonna barely pronounce the segal and quickly move on to our next consonant, which has a holum over it. This would be an example of the defective holum because there's no vav. If there was a vav underneath it, we would call it holum vav. Here we just call it holum, and it's a long O sound. Here we have an H or a hey with a hirek yod. Again, the hirek yod, if the yod wasn't there, it would just be hirek. But it's hirek yod, it's the E sound, like the long I sound. This is the word for God. This is the most frequently used word for God in the Bible. It's called Elohim. So let's pronounce it syllable by syllable. Lo, he, ma. El, lo, him. The next word here is an aleph and a tav with a tsere underneath the aleph, and this word is pronounced, or remember the aleph isn't pronounced, just the vowel underneath it. So in Hebrew, if you want to start the pronunciation of a word with a vowel, that word usually starts with an aleph, because although aleph is a consonant, it has no pronunciation of its own. So it just holds the place for the vowel underneath it to be pronounced as either an A, E, I, O, or U sound. So this word, because the tsere is an sound, this word is et. The aleph isn't pronounced. Et is the word. The next word is the word for heaven, ha, shamayim. The hey at the beginning of the word is actually a direct object. The heavens, the im on the end is a plural, so shamayim is the word for heavens. So underneath the hey, we have a patak, which is an ah sound. Underneath the sheen, we have a kametz, which is also an ah sound. Underneath the mem, we have a patak, but it's a patak. Actually, it's not a patach yod. It looks like it is, but since there's a vowel underneath the yod is not helping this patach, but it's serving as a consonant with a Y sound here. So we've got ha, sha, ma, yim, yim. These are all, I'm getting my open and closed syllables mixed up. So this is a consonant vowel consonant at the end. So we've got ha, sha, ma, yim. The next word is va'et. It's actually two words. The way you say the word and in Hebrew is you put a vav at the beginning of the word. So this word here is the same word here. The et is basically a, we'll have to talk more about that later. It's a direct object indicator. It's talking about the heavens, and so here's the vav that serves as an and, the direct object indicator for the last word, which is haaretz. So let's look at the vowels underneath our consonants. We've got a shva underneath the vav. So it's either not going to be pronounced or just barely pronounced. Underneath the aleph, we've got a tzere. So it's kind of the EY sound, and then a tav to complete that syllable. So we've got ve, et, and then the last word, he, aleph, resh, tzadi. Here again, the he is used as the definite article. The, aretz is the earth. Let's look at the vowels that we have here. Ha, a, retz. Let's pronounce the whole verse, just going syllable, consonant by consonant and vowel by vowel. So we've got ba, re, sheet, ba, ra, Elohim, et, ha, sha, ma, yim, ve, et, ha, a, retz. Let's move on. Here we've got the second verse of Genesis 1. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And here we have the Hebrew starting from right to left. We'll look at the first word, and I'm just going to pronounce the consonant and the vowel with it, consonant by consonant and vowel by vowel. Ve, ha, a, retz, hi, ta, to, hu. Here we have the shurek. It's a vav with a dot in the middle, so it's the u sound or the u sound. So this is to, hu, va, vo, hu. Another example of the shurek. A shortened form of that word could be with the kavutz underneath the hey. Next word, the, ho, shek, al. Here we've got a little hyphen between the word al and paneh, which just kind of connects the two words together. In Hebrew, this means al means up on, and paneh is the face of the deep, the face of the deep. So the on would be al, paneh, on the face of the deep. So we've got al, peneh, te, home. Now here we've got a hey with a Holem Vav beside it. The Vav could be dropped out, but it's in there. So Tehom is spelled here in this case with the Holem Vav. Tehom ve ruach. Now this is the word for spirit. Ruach here. The Vav is the word and. Ve is how you say and in Hebrew. And these three letters, Resh, Vav, and Chet, there's no opening here, so it's not a Hey, but it's a Chet. This is a unique kind of exception to the rule. Normally, we would pronounce the word Ruach as Rucha, because the vowel should come after the vowel. But when a patach comes underneath a chet, you pronounce the vowel first and then the consonant. There are very few situations where that's the case. We'll probably come across a few of them, but it's just one of those exceptions to the rule that you have to keep in mind. So this word is pronounced ve, ru, ach, vowel first, chet second. Here again, we have the word for Elohim, starts with an aleph. So this is E-lo-him. Me-ra-che-fet al-paneh. We came across al-paneh before. Here it's saying that the Spirit of God was hovering, melachefet, hovering, over or upon, al, the face, panei, hamayim, the waters, al panei, ha, ma, yim. So those are two verses in the Hebrew Old Testament. The last thing we'll do is look at a couple verses from the Hebrew translation of the New Testament. This is by Delitzsch. This is Delitzsch's translation, Franz Delitzsch. It's his translation of the New Testament. And in fact, we've almost had the same verse. John 1:1 sounds very familiar, very similar to Genesis 1:1. Here's our first word in the Old Testament and in the Gospel of John. Bereshit haya hadavar ve, that's the word for and, ve hadavar ha ya et ha Elohim velohim. Now this is interesting because here we've got the vav, which is the Hebrew word for and, but we don't have a vowel underneath the aleph. So what that's telling us is we're going to go from pronouncing the vav to pronouncing the lamed, and we need a longer sounding vowel like an a tsere, to get us from the vav across the aleph to the lamed. So we've got velohim ha ya ha da var. So let me pronounce this as it would be read in Hebrew. Bereshit haya hadavar v'hadavar haya et ha'elohim ve'elohim Haya hadavar. So that's saying in the beginning was the word, hadavar, and the word was with God. Chaya et ha-Elohim. The word was with God. And the word was God. Elohim chaya hadavar. So Bereshit chaya hadavar ve'hadavar chaya et ha-Elohim, but ha-Elohim chaya hadavar. Next verse. He was in the beginning with God. So we've got the word in the beginning again. Here we've got a hey with a shurek. So who, and the aleph isn't pronounced, who, ha, ya, bereshit, et, ha, Elohim. Hu haya bereshit et Elohim. He was in the beginning with God. And that is the end of our PowerPoint for learning the vowels and the consonants that we learned earlier. In the next lessons, we will be looking at the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1. And we'll be looking at that because it begins with a genealogy. It starts with the Old Testament characters that are in the genealogy of Jesus. And so basically, it's just a list of names. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begat the 12 patriarchs. In Jesus' case, it's Judah. He was the ancestor, not any of the other 12. So we're going to spend some time just applying what we've learned. There won't be another lesson in Hebrew grammar. We're just going to learn how to pronounce names by just taking the consonants and vowels together and pronouncing them slowly. And so one of the easiest things that we can learn to pronounce in Hebrew is names, because most of those names sound very similar, if not exactly the same, in Hebrew and English. So for example, in English, the word Abraham is pronounced that way. In Hebrew, it's pronounced Avraham. The name Jacob is pronounced in Hebrew Yaakov, because there's no J sound in Hebrew like there is in English. When we come to Jesus' name, it won't be the Greek version, Jesus, but it will be the Hebrew version, Yeshua, which means salvation. So let me go ahead and give you the blessing here, and then we will bring this lesson to an end. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance on you and give you peace. In Hebrew, it sounds like this. Yevrechecha Yahweh vayishmarecha. Ya'er Yahweh panav elecha v'yuchunecha. Yisa Yahweh panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. So may he give you peace and goodbye. Shalom to you.